All right, folks, well, it's 6 o'clock and haven't heard from Mitchell or Connor, but I assume that they, will join if they can. Otherwise, I say we go ahead and call tonight's meeting to order. It's 6 o'clock on the dot on September 21st. Welcome to the September EC meeting. So let's go ahead and go around, and do our roll call. Is there anybody on Zoom or?
No, not that I know of.
Okay, great. So let's go around and just say, our name and our role.
All right, Megan Murphy, Commissioner.
David Parker, Commissioner.
Megan Binkowski, Commissioner. Corinna Tankersley, Commissioner. Alana Kiwi, Fellow.
Mike Whitman, Commissioner.
Shannon Guy, Commissioner.
Don Eggert, Commissioner.
Matt Caldy, Commissioner.
Linda Thompson, Liaison.
Here, all right, Sharon.
Mitchell Owens, Commissioner. Conrad, Commissioner.
Amazing. That's perfect timing. Just swing in. We've got a full house, which is really exciting. We've got some good conversations coming up tonight, so be nice to talk now. So I sent through the August minutes. I didn't hear a lot back, so if folks are interested in voting on the minutes, we can do that, or we can also give you all another round of review if you've not had a chance as well. So consider that.
Who's taking minutes tonight?
Oh, who's taking minutes tonight? So Kristen is out for work this evening, so she's not able to take minutes as our secretary. Are there any volunteers who'd be willing to take minutes or take a few notes on your conversation for tonight? Alana, back Alana, way to jump back in. Get to it.
I guess if she, am I allowed, but.
That's
Well,
it's
it's not a duty that I can give you.
Oh. But if you volunteer.
You allowed to do it if it's by
Yeah, sure.
for the appearance spirits. Thanks, Alana. You're not forced. Okay, how do folks feel about the August minutes that were sent through? Any thoughts on next steps?
I motion to vote to approve the minutes.
Maybe the second.
Second.
Oh, great, fantastic. All right, well then we'll go around and.
7th and 8th and 9th.
All right, can we go ahead and start? Commissioner?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I vote yeah. Fantastic. Thank you all for weighing in. Okay. Right. And Alana, I've got the count, I mean, it's yeses and everyone except for Kristen's president so far, but I have this minus six. Gorgeous. All right, so it sounds like we don't have any members of the public, unless they're hiding in the hallway. Feeling nervous? No? All right. We're gonna go ahead and go through. So we've got a couple of old business items to jump into. The first one here, I just wanted to include it in case there was anything that needed to be followed up on as far as plans for Buckfest goes. So yeah, Megan, if there's anything that you want to check in with.
I think we are all set. We have insect specimens that are pinned and ready to go and probably be broken apart and loved very hard tomorrow. A big poster that talks about the benefits of having insects in your yard, which thank you to Don for recommending that. Talks about predatory insects that eat pests, talks about pollinators, all the big important things. I will have a chart or tents and things after the meeting, and then we have 2 volunteers along with me in the morning and then 2 volunteers in the afternoon, so I think we're looking pretty good. Unless I'm missing anything that anyone else knows.
Did we get the stamp?
We did not get the stamp, and apparently it's because, for better or worse, they have so many booklets left from last year that they aren't reprinting them, and the exact same people get stamps again. That they, you know, that's sustainability and not just throwing away all their old booklets. But they told me next year, as long as there's enough people this year, we can have a stamp. So.
Was there any like requirement for the stamp? Like, was it just?
It seems that me having requested one would have worked if they were making new booklets, but yeah.
All right. Okay, noted for next year. All right, well, super excited to hear how things go with this. Sounds like it's gonna be a lot of fun. I've gotten a few folks that I know excited about going down there, so hopefully we'll have a fun turnout. Great. Well, the next item on the agenda is a follow-up letter. Mike, this is one that you suggested about the planning transportation letter that you refer the correspondence you got back from Jackie.
Right, I guess we should decide what the next step is. Jackie said that Scott was willing to continue the discussion. We have another meeting with Scott and Jackie. But there's kind of a timing issue. Linda, do you know?
Yeah, I talked to Scott, just when he saw the agenda. And basically he said that it would, it wouldn't be heard till next spring. That there's really nothing to update. And if we have any questions, we should, remember he's, always got an open door and, but it'll be written probably next spring.
Okay, well, there's really nothing more we need to do in terms of constructing our comments. So what would you advise? Should we meet Scott now or wait until early next year when it's fresh?
I would wait.
Okay, I guess that's as far as we go now.
And it sounds like the comments are set. Do we need feedback for things that would be helpful to start now? And
Beg pardon?
have you done like full feedback from everyone since updating them, or are there things?
Well, the last thing we did was I sent our draft around everybody that wanted to comment on it, and then I sent it, the final to the planning. And Jackie responded to it, and just not too long ago, we got another response, I think 3 weeks ago, where she said Scott would be willing to continue the conversation. And I think the difference could be that first we just objected to the current language in the UDO, but this time we spelled out exactly how we wanted it changed. And hopefully that makes some progress on that. I guess we'll wait till next spring.
That's something that's make sure we follow up on that as spring rolls around. Great. Well, thanks for the update. Okay. Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is joint meeting / gathering with other boards and commissions.
We talked about this earlier and thought it was a good idea and then never did anything. So I kind of just threw it back on there. Do we not really want to do it, or do we just let it drop off the back of the stove?
Was this for anything in particular or just like a basic collaboration?
Just a basic collaboration.
Well, I think, so one thing that that I'd like to squeeze into our new business section is talking about the email that came through, about the organizational assessment that the special committee is doing. So I do feel like that there is not overlap, there's relevance there when it comes to how we work with other boards and commissions as far as either maintaining our autonomy or understanding that collaboration or working together might be the future of how we do things. So, what do you all think about this? Like,
well, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna suggest that we take as new business Linda's suggestion that we put together a working group for this proposal from these consultants.
yeah, agreed.
So that seems like new business to me.
Yeah, I agree. So maybe what we should do is just hold off on this, until the working group comes up with something, and, then we can meet with VCOs, see what they think.
Yeah, okay, so we'll wait about 5 minutes to talk about this some more, but I am also eager to talk through the working group and our next steps there. Okay, great. Well then, moving right along, the new business. So the first one listed here is meeting reports and how we approach them. And that was something that I suggest that we talk about because, as you know, further down the agenda, we have our reports from the various commissions or boards or meetings that our commissioners attend. So each month we'll hear from what's going on in the IRIS or the county environmental commission when we're able to attend, things like that. And what I want to do is just take a moment to talk about the value of those updates what our role is in attending those meetings, what we want to have come from that, because although I'm really excited to hear about these updates, and I think it's important for us to be having these relationships, I also want to make sure that we're thinking about what is our role, what can we do, where are we fostering stronger connections, and also, are there times when we want to be saying, we would like to give a response back to something that was discussed, or raise questions, or be more involved, and that's part of why we have someone attending those meetings on our behalf, is to kind of have a surrogate for those conversations. So I think the first thing I think I want to put out there as far as this bullet point goes is thinking about the updates that we have, particularly from Dave and Don, who I know you attend these meetings and provide us these updates each month. So I really want to hear from you on what do you think has been valuable? Where is something that, or is there anything that you'd like to change about how we do this? And then hear from a larger group on how do we think about these updates, and is there anything we'd like to do that adjust how we approach them? So either of you, and hopefully it doesn't feel like I'm springing it on you, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on the updates and attending the meetings and that.
Well, I think, for example, with the tree commission, I think it's useful for you all to know what they're doing. And when I go to the tree commission, they ask to hear what we are doing, and so I report in both directions. With ERAC, they don't ask for a report from us, but I do give you a report of what they're doing. And yeah, Friends of Lake Monroe's not doing much at the moment, so but that's generally been, I report to you and they don't ask for a report from us. So.
I think one thing that really strikes me about going to the BCARS meetings is that they, since Matt Flaherty is a full-fledged member of the commission, that's something that we don't have the benefit of.
Of the commission or the council?
Of the council, you know, so the most beneficial thing is to hear what the council is up to. And you did mention at length that one major part of Matt's comments this week, or last week rather, were addressed towards the commission or the council rather is seriously considering, and then one input from both. And it seems like they're having a meeting is coming up where they're going to be discussing us and BCARS. The concern I have is that just being there, they only allow 3 minutes of public comment. We may as well not ask that. That's totally physically, I think, impossible. You know, I don't time the other people's when they do fairly frequently have visitors who do comment, but it is kind of, you know, I think it'd be more logical to me to have some commissioners that are voting members of both commissions and to keep them separate, particularly because of one of the things that I noticed. Linda's husband made a long presentation to BCARS. And I was listening and very interested more in the questions that they asked Todd at the end. And there was minimal questions about there was only one question really specifically that was about the impact of the geology and the environment. And it was not really very well defined to me as to what they, you know, was sort of a lot of it seemed to be going over the top of their head. But for me as a geologist, I was sitting there and I was thinking, one of the things Todd pointed out, some of the work you did on mapping the outcrops and stuff of the lives of the stone outcrops in the county. And And Todd showed maps, one of the maps that showed the trend of the joint systems in the limestone. And I know, David and wife, you know, how back at the founding of of our commission, the PCB issue and contamination of, where the pollution was moving. And that was, to me, a real fundamental thing of looking at where they didn't seem to pick up on how, you know, we're no longer using PCBs around town, but the stuff that's still moving into there's still stuff moving into the groundwater.
It sounds like in attending the B Coast meetings, part of the value that you get is hearing, because Matt is so involved with the council, you get kind of you get maybe a sneak peek of some of the information that we would eventually get, like the email that we got about the organizational assessment, where we all got it today, but it sounds like it might have been cooking a little bit. I know that like the NOVAC report and everything has been happening for a while.
Right.
So,
And there also is more of a trend in the, because I realize commissions change over time of composition, but there is a very strong component towards social justice issues.
This order of business is about reports and how we approach them. We're next going to talk about like Novak and combining and stuff.
That apparently seems to be seriously on the table.
and that's actually on, we just talked about bringing that to our new business, so we'll definitely talk about that too.
Yeah.
I think what I'm more curious about is, like, even for some of our newer members, as you're getting to know some of the other boards and commissions, when we go around and do our updates, do you, and not for any specific update, but kind of when you're listening to this, when you're making sense of it, is there anything that stands out to you of, I'd be interested in hearing more about this, or I find that I don't typically understand, you know, if there's a role for us in that, besides just like, oh, it's nice to know, or if it's, that's really helpful in me knowing who we are and who some of these other commissions are. Anything like that some of our newer members are experiencing or would want to share?
Could happen. I'm a newest member, but I definitely find it informative. Obviously, I've only been here 2 meetings, but I think it's definitely interesting to learn about what the other groups are doing, and you know, we're not doubling down if we're all working on the same projects. I definitely think there's room to also give reports about what we're working on too, because more information, in my opinion, and like government is usually good with terms of transparency. So I enjoy that, like, people are asking what we're doing as well.
No, I would agree. I think interesting things pop up from time to time in all of these reports. You never can predict when it's going to be, so it's definitely listening to it.
And from my brief understanding from, I guess, the 3 meetings I've been doing for at this point, it seems like a number of the groups that, especially you two participate with, are a lot more kind of hands-on in the community with a lot of like invasive species removal. I think the tree commission is a lot more kind of hands-on with actually getting out and doing things versus kind of having more policy orientation. So it's interesting to see how those overlap and how we can fit in with the kind of feet on the ground with some of the organizations.
I just wanted to ask, the purpose of the reports in the meeting, is it just for us, or is it for anyone who would watch the meeting on CATS or anything else? Because like personally, I get the most value out of reading the email minutes from BRAC, from MCIRS, from Tree Commission, from all of those. That's where I take it all in, and then at the meeting, I already know the kind of spark notes given in the report. So I guess I wanted to know if the purpose of the reports is for sharing with ourselves or sharing larger scale.
Well,
Okay.
Yeah, it didn't start out the larger scale because we've been doing, you know, these reports for a long time, way before Zoom, so it's a valid question though.
Yeah, I guess moving forward, since it's new business, that was just something I wanted to propose. What are we looking to get out of it, and are we trying to be a loudspeaker for those groups essentially during our report session, or is it just for ourselves?
I would say, I don't know that we have much of the loudspeaker function, or that many people are listening to our speaker, but for informing the group here, it is much more time efficient to know what's going on and if we want to be involved in other efforts and other things going on in other commissions, because the minutes come out so much later, right? That getting updates, I guess we still only get them monthly. But to me, it is a much quicker, but I find value in hearing them. And I certainly didn't make it to Monroe County Environmental Commission many times before they changed, but they did a very nice, like, it's very nice to have you as a liaison. What are you hoping to gain? Here's what we hope to gain by having you here. That it didn't happen from those few meetings that they had something that was like, oh, we also need to be involved. But I very much had the sense that they wanted us involved when those issues came up, right? So that having a liaison was very beneficial for us.
I think when I appreciate everybody's input on this, it's really helpful. I think when I am kind of looking back on some of our updates or thinking about attending some other commissions, I think one of the ideas or concepts that crosses my mind is where we come in, whether it's our institutional knowledge. Some of the folks on this commission have been here forever and will never ever leave. But they, do this for a long time and know a lot of where we've been. And there are also times where it feels like there's opportunity for collaboration, or we know this other commission is going to be doing this thing too, so we'll see them there, and whatever it might be, where our knowledge of it may allow us to do something differently, or may allow us to help support them. I really love that, and I think when we're doing updates, I know that my ears are kind of looking for where does the EC come in, whether it's something that we can support, something we can engage in, or something we can learn from and decide if we want to do something different. So I know that when people are doing their updates, I think about that and I'm listening for that as well. And yeah, that's kind of the lens through which I kind of think about these reports. But I also know that just getting a Cliff Notes version of the meeting is also kind of handy if you're getting to know those organizations too. So. Excuse me. Do other folks have thoughts on those? I guess I just kind of wanted to bring it up because we do it so often, but I want to make sure we're doing it in a way that makes sense for us and is valuable for us before we just kind of keep it on.
One quick takeaway that I had is that the new funding thing that's coming through hand is that it seems that they're going to be looking at possibly getting funding through hand for some of the projects that their working groups are looking at that require resources, which is something that when we tried to do that air quality thing, those little handheld things, it was obvious that it was not going to be very productive. We needed something that was more reliable equipment-wise. So seeing the fact that they're looking at getting funding with one of the new programs from hand is something I think we should, it's beneficial to know that we too can do things like that.
Yeah, I was actually, Don, thank you for bringing that up. I was just thinking about that as there was the, what is it called? The Resilience Institute, the ER with the E. Oh gosh, what is that word? That they did a webinar today on some of the Justice 40 grants that people or organizations are eligible for. And thinking about that, like maybe I think you're right, Don, that there's some inspiration that we can get from other commissions, or thinking they're more active. Is us finding ways to find funding, find different ways to fulfill our role to the city. Is that something that we would like to do differently? Can we learn from others? Can we ask them questions in the meetings that we attend when they do their updates on what they're doing with their funding, things like that? So I think that those are the kinds of questions to really consider as far as thinking critically about what we're doing in these meetings, how we're contributing. And they may not ask for updates from us, but it's nice when we're able to give them updates or if we have anything and things that we can share. So yeah.
Are you also considering whether we were to add more groups that we wanted to report from or remove any of these groups from it?
Matt, that was definitely on my mental list. Right now, the list via, the groups that we have reports from are currently Tree Commission, the Monroe County Environmental Commission, which has moved their meetings to happen right at this exact moment every month that we meet, so we no longer have someone attending. I think we keep an eye out for the recordings of their meetings, but it's.
Do they?
They were last posted in August of 2022. So when your last minutes are from.
So they're gonna backlog, so Megan's gonna take a weekend and just binge.
They're posted. I check every month of like, are there minutes?
We attend BCOS, the Commission on Sustainability, ERAC, which is the Environmental Resource Advisory Council, the Metropolitan Planning Organizing Citizens Advisory Council, and POCAC. That one hasn't been meeting for a while, right?
No, they've been meeting, just, we haven't had a volunteer to be on it, but we have a seat at the table to be a voting member.
Who can share when these meetings are happening? Do you know off the top of your head?
This is,
When those
MPO.
meetings happen?
yeah, there's two people in my office that sit right by me that they are the MPO.
Do you know when they get to- do you know if we could, if we have somebody who has the availability to be our representative there? Do you know when they gather or?
No.
Like,
No, but I can, I mean, I get a notice from them every month.
okay, so that makes.
But I don't have it committed to memory.
What? Linda, I swear. No, sorry. Okay, so the MPO, we've got a spot that we can fill if there's somebody who's interested. Okay, that's good to know. And then Friends of Lake Monroe, which is.
I have a couple of comments on that. So.
Oh, great. And then we have MC Iris. So those are the different meetings that we currently attend and do reports on. And it really is primarily Don and Dave who do that and share with us what's going on there, which is nice. And then Megan, the county, we're timed a little bit differently. But it sounds like, so the MPO, and this is just kind of history, but the MPO we have a seat on. Are there others that we have like a formal seat that we're not attending as commissioners versus
The tree commission.
the Tree Commission? Is that the only one?
What about it?
Oh, that you're a real voting member.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's EVAC too, I think.
Oh, they have okay, I didn't
They
realize,
don't vote very often. But
right, but you're a real member.
I think so.
Yeah, okay.
The MPO meets monthly on Wednesdays, except for July and December. So
Do you know which Wednesday?
the
27th is the next one.
27th is the next meeting, and October 25th is the following,
It's like the last
6:38 p.m. Ski conference room.
That sounds like from my neighbors in the office that are the MPO, that sometimes their meetings are very lively.
In a good way or a bad way?
Yeah.
I think it depends on whether some of the comments are aimed at you or you're a vice chair.
Yeah, very strong feelings about transportation.
Okay, well, that's really good to know. So to Matt's question, these are all boards, councils, commissions that we attend. Do those all make sense still? Are there changes that we want to make as or that people would be interested in making as far as what we attend?
What about Friends of Lake Monroe?
Well, yeah, maybe Mike can say more about this than I. There's a new science committee, which I was on for a while, and they were doing things I didn't know anything about, so I just resigned from that. But
I did the same thing.
oh, I see. Okay, Mike was on it briefly too then. And names escape me. Maggie Sullivan for 2 years ran a funded research program, and they had a 30-person science advisory committee, and I was on that representing the Environmental Commission. But they, completed that particular grant. And Maggie is now making use of the things that came up in it. I think they now have a second grant that, for example, pays farmers to, jointly to put in, cover crops and maybe to put fences to keep cattle away from streams and things like that. I think the Friends of Lake Monroe has some money to help farmers do things that make sense for protecting Monroe Reservoir. And just recently, Maggie has sent me a bunch of data to do some statistical analysis on, and I'll be doing that, but that's not specifically related to any committee or anything of Friends of Lake Monroe. So.
I think it's a very good group, and they do research on the lake, bank erosion, that sort of thing. So it's interesting to know when they get results from their studies.
Are there other commissions that we don't have a presence on that you're surprised that we don't, or that you think would be valuable for us to attend from time to time, even maybe not just like in a formal capacity, but just in a connecting some dots?
The only one I could possibly think of would be Bike Ped Committee, and I don't know that they really do a lot. They're kind of active right now because of Greenway plans.
Scroll through the whole city's list of board and commissions, and I'm not sure there's any obvious ones we're missing.
All right, so I think what makes good sense at this point is it sounds like of the meetings that we attend, the commissions that we're present on, it sounds like people are feeling good about what, not only where we're present, but also some of the updates or information that are coming from those meetings. I think it would be helpful for us to keep thinking about through the lens of the EC, what can we learn, what can we collaborate on, what can we do to support things that are happening that make sense for us as a commission. And then as you're hearing about different things going on within the city, whether it's a commission or a council meeting, anything like that, that if you're interested in attending and then sharing with us what you're learning, that would be, I mean, it's a great way to be involved in the city, but it's also a good way to feel out if, Bike Ped currently is having conversations that do fall into sort of that environmental space, that if we're there, that's a chance for us to give input or to come back to the commission and say, hey, I'm learning some stuff that's going on. It may be worth raising our hand to see if we can help. So, any other thoughts on this? I appreciate everyone putting some time and thought into it.
Are there any groups that aren't officially boards and commissions that have regular meetings, whether that's, I don't know, Canopy or any, I don't have a good list in my head, but I looked through boards and commissions, but I realize there's probably plenty of other groups that I just don't know enough about.
All right, that's our homework. Are there other basically like community groups or organizations that would make sense for us to have somebody
a presence in and or receive a report from?
And if this was the past, they'd say the Center for Sustainable Living, but I think they kind of split up into various groups, and I don't know what they're actually doing.
Yeah. All right. I'll put that in a minute. That's the homework for this month. Keep your ears out for any groups or meetings that make sense for us to attend, and just try to get to know a little bit better.
Well, there's some environmental groups at IU with students, aren't there?
Yeah. I don't know. There's a WEPSA. What's that? I just learned the full name. I already forgot. O'Neill Environmental Professional Student Association. Yeah. Yeah, well, but yeah, it's like sustainability, but they also focus on like conservation, and there's women in conservation.
Yeah,
that Corona,
my little student org, but I don't know, it seems more like it would make sense for the EC. I mean, could definitely have a relationship with one or both of those organizations, but I think that would more look like someone here, like who wants to talk at like a meeting and talk about what the EC does, or possibly recruiting volunteers for like an EC workday. Not necessarily, I'm not sure it makes I won't have a whole lot to report on for women in conservation that I think is actually meaningful to you all.
Okay,
I think the liaison space might not be like the best use for that, I think it's like, there's not,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
So some students for New England World, so that big one too. I think
I've never heard of that.
undergrad.
Yeah,
okay.
yes,
But
There's a new Canvas Life initiative that was just rolled out today, that is still being put together, but it has a community engagement aspect of it. So I can give you contact information for that.
Cool, that sounds great.
It's, what are they calling it? It's just a new climate committee, but it has both the sort of research, it's again, full university, but sort of research community and pedagogical components.
and we already mentioned the Environmental Resilience
Yeah.
Institute. I'm not sure if they have regular meetings of a certain flavor that might make sense for someone to attend, but
Not that I know.
okay.
I've worked with them in the past.
Yeah.
It would at least be something that we keep tabs on, but I don't think they have something.
Right.
Meetings, I think it's.
Chairs in Indy as well.
Yeah.
Person who's running it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Some of these, it's like about like a public meeting that people, go to be part of, but more of a specific reasons you might attend or, you know. Okay. Any other thoughts on any other groups or that makes into the section? Oh. Open to your thoughts, but, the ECPC is one that we didn't, explicitly comment in this list of the different, committees that we represent or that we attend, but I assume ECPC is a flickering light
it's
of,
a flickering light.
of,
We'll be getting together again soon because there'll be, a new, plan coming out for the Summit District. But we haven't, except for that one, we haven't gotten together in a long time.
Gotcha. Any other last thoughts before we move on to our other item? Great. Thanks for all the engaging discussion. I really appreciate everyone's input. All right, so the sort of shoehorned topic for this evening is the email that we received about the sort of working group assessment from the special committee on council processes. So basically, I don't know if Linda, you've got a deeper understanding of this, but basically just a revisitation of kind of what is on the environmental commission to deliver on, fulfill, what we want to be focusing on, kind of that breakdown of who we are. It's a lot to take in, and the due date for kind of like our feedback on that breakdown is due date the 20th of November, and so I think at this point, while we can have a lot of discussion, I think it probably makes sense to really focus more on forming a working group that can start to parse out some of the specific things that we want to dig into, think through, and then bring that to our October meeting. And then we'll be able to meet right before the 20th at our November meeting. So it may be a chance to kind of finalize what we want that feedback to look like. Before jumping into like who's been in the working group, does anybody have any thoughts, comments, anything like that about just the concept that I'm talking about here?
Anyone who's not familiar with what the like Novak report is, it was they brought consultants in to look at a whole bunch of stuff, and they made recommendations about everything from basically that boards and commissions, there are too many of them. They take too much of the city council's time deciding on whether people should be on them or not. There was a lot of, I mean, it was a really big document, and there was some good stuff in it, in my opinion, some things about regularly looking at what the boards and commissions are and deciding what the scope should be, or more uniform onboarding processes. And there were aspects of it that I think were very positive, but a lot of them were just cut commissions, merge commissions. This is all too much.
Yeah.
So that's
like
what we're discussing, and that's what the special committee there at the council is looking at. And one of the main suggestions was to merge us with the Commission on Sustainability. So
something to think about on this is this description that they gave of our duties, which was part of the original ordinance, has very little overlap with what we do today. But the commission has evolved over time, and nobody's really ever held us to task about this. you know, they can't change the ordinance every time we change our priorities. So I wonder how much time we really need to spend on this, given that after, if we've made a lot of big changes, somebody still would not hold us to task on it, nobody would notice. Just a thought. I had, you know, looking at this, I had a lot of revisions that I would have recommended if we really want to get into it.
Well, it will be that if there's a working group, that one thing they could propose were some edits to.
Because that ordinance is gonna be changed. You know, I mean, it would definitely be changed if we were combined. And I mean, and so there will be an opportunity for us to make changes, I think. We want to.
Yeah, okay, yeah. You think that we need to do that right now, or wait to see what happens?
We probably,
I think it might be in our best interest to review our powers and duties and at least sort of draft something.
yeah, let's let the working group think about that.
So having said that, that's a bit of a nice little springboard into the working group. So just to be clear, you don't have to have a long history with the EC to be part of this working group, because you're actively part of this current EC, which is where we're going. And if things change, if we merge with another commission or if we stay as we are, it'll be really important that we have input from people who are seeing where we are right now moving forward as well. So I don't want anyone to feel intimidated if they don't have the like historical knowledge of where we've been for the last many years. But you are welcome to be part of it if you do have that back history. So having said that, are there folks who feel interested in being on this working group, which I assume we'll need to meet at least a few separate times before our October meeting? Any folks who want to put their hand up for be a part of this super fun working group? I see Shannon.
I'm willing to be on it, but I don't want to run it.
You're not willing to run in capital letters. Got it. All right, so I've got Shannon and Dave. All right.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat as Dave.
Not willing to run. Okay.
I don't want to run into that. I'm not a new one.
I'm also interested in the working group.
Sounds like Mike had some suggestions.
Yeah.
Well, when I saw this thing, I just penciled some things in here, yeah. But I mean, the reality is this started in the 70s, and the priority focus of it was pollution. You know this better than I do. And I would say that's one of our lower priorities right now. It pops up from time to time, but maybe it's time. It is time for us to the council to completely change the description.
Yeah. Okay. Well, great. Well, this is a good initial group, and what I would say is, so we've got Shannon, Dave, Matt, and Corinna. If there are other folks who decide they want to participate in it, I would say let's reach out. What I can do is I can kick off the first email to this group, and I work is very busy in the next 2 months, so I'm not sure how much I'll be involved, but I'd be happy to like kick it off, get things rolling, and then just as much time as possible. So I'll say email.
And so I'll be on it.
Lynn is joining. Well, look there. Love it. Great. Okay. As far as kind of assessing what this group will, how they will be approaching this conversation, do folks want to talk about any sort of like guiding principles behind what this is going to look like? We obviously don't have to get into it or nail out exactly what our focus should be in the coming years or anything, but just conceptually, what are we trying to return? Are we saying we want to propose different specs for this for our duties and roles and things like that? Do we want to talk to other commissions? Do we want to look at other commissions roles and like that?
I think that part of what we're going to have to do is just look at all of the sort of duties and goals that like we have here for the other commissions as well, just to get a sense of, I mean, before we do much of anything.
And read the report.
Yeah, which I haven't done. So.
Because the report actually sounded like the BCOS should be assimilated by EC. But that's a real important thing to read, and then the duties, for the EC and for BCOS. And see where those overlap, and at the same time, we're thinking about those, we can think about if we would like to change anything in ours.
As the when the city was going to look at climate change, were we actively consulted or asked to participate in any way, shape, or form in that?
In the plan, the climate plan, climate action plan, I'm not sure if the EC was, I reviewed it.
We were asked to look at it and provide edits, but I don't know how much they took.
Done deal, I think, when we were asked to review it. And the concern I have is that, to me, I'm a generalist, and the way I look at it, but I still look at everything being interconnected. But one of the things that seemed to be an emphasis was the concentration in the climate action plan on transportation. And it didn't seem to address this is the concern I've had since I first read the thing, when we were reading it for review, was that the big kahuna is not so much transportation. Transportation is in the process of evolving from a carbon-based to ultimately a solar-based green energy in all its different forms. And the big thing that remains the same, and it's the big kahuna in the climate, is home heating and cooling and building efficiency. Whereas transportation is going to change. And when I read the plan, I realized that in Europe, the transportation is already changing to the point where several years ago, Norway and Sweden were about 50% of car sales were electric.
Were you thinking for that, it sounds like we didn't really get a lot of feedback into the climate action plan. It's mostly just like, edits, is there anything that's like a specific word or term?
I think we were very effective proofreaders.
Yeah.
We had a good formatting suggestion, don't put yellow on white. Our impacts were not of the most substance.
The cows had already gotten loose. It was already a done deal.
Yeah.
And we came in, were brought into the pictures basically as editors.
It sounds like that's the kind of thing where, as we know that this is a big focus for the city moving forward, I mean, of course now, like, I think that's the kind of thing where as we're looking through the code of what we do, what we contribute, things like that, it may be things like that we examine where that fits in, and are we seeing that as something that we're intending to contribute or that we would like to, and how we want to put that in the scope there. Yeah, okay, all right, well, I think that we've got a good start. Are there, so the working group, we've got a few folks who have volunteered to participate. Thank you in advance for doing that. But I think as far as the conversation kind of next steps, I feel like we've got a pretty good plan.
I will say this was kind of brief in the emails. One of the things that they did specifically ask us was like, does this language accurately reflect what you guys do? Yeah. So it'd probably be good to definitely pull that stuff together.
Yeah, and I think without leaning one way or the other, knowing that they're interested in potentially merging two commissions, I think really thinking through when we turn around with that new scope, how much does it overlap? What do we think about that? What does the EC want to bring to that recommendation of like, yeah, there's a lot of overlap, and we know that, and we're okay with that, or we are really defining this lane right here, and it has nothing to do with this lane over here, and just really being mindful of when we have that reply, we want that to look like, and indicator.
And another thing that the working group needs to look at is, are the duties from all the boards and commissions. Because there are so many that have to do with social justice now that, now we've created the Sustainability Commission who is, covers that also. Do we really need that many commissions on one topic, even though there's different sectors, like, women and young people and old people and white people and black people and so knowing where our duties can if there's another commission that can take some of those duties.
That's a really good point, that like it doesn't have to be everything that we could potentially cover. If there's another commission that it makes great sense where they are able to own that.
Yeah.
We don't need to scoop that on. We can actually maybe think more deeply about one of the areas that we want to focus on versus spreading ourselves thinner.
Yeah, I think it's an opportunity to look at what we have recently done and what we would like to do or be able to do. The only boards or commissions that I feel that could be a really good idea to talk to and or compare ourselves to are probably PCOS and ERAC. I mean, those are the most similar in one way, shape, or form. But if we can be doing those things simultaneously without, very deliberately saying, how can we build our roles and our duties and responsibilities to not look like theirs? We can be saying, what are we and what do we want to be? Also, what are they? Yeah. It's just quickly, a few meetings within a couple months, perhaps. Maybe just some on Zoom because it's going to be hard to get everybody in one place. But
some of this language in the original ordinance has things like we would hold hearings and hire consultants and do surveys, and these are like all unfunded mandates.
Right.
Curious to see how that's going to change.
I was definitely reading that and thinking, like, did we used to have a huge budget?
The last one on there was apply for grants, so it was unfunded.
I think that there's, to me, one of the most obvious, just kind of a weird divergence here, pardon me for this, but I'm a weather geek, and one of the things that's really apparent to me is if you compare the temperatures that are being reported, scattered through the community, because I've used Weather Underground, they have a number of reporting stations in town. And one of the things I've been noticing is how much this summer's temperatures in the closest station to my house is usually six or more degrees hotter than out in the county at the airport.
Is that related to what we're talking about now?
It is sort of in a way, because getting data, if you're going to have policy that's based on science, you have to incorporate being able to focus on getting work done that'll document justification in doing something.
And I think that's a good way to kind of think about when we are assessing our roles and duties is, okay, we know the city has this climate action plan. This is something that is, it's already reflected somewhat in our roles and duties, but right now, what can we do? What are ways we can support it, like with the air quality monitoring and things like that, and just making sure we're explicitly saying, we got a bunch of data nerds, let us help find you this data or accumulate, these reports that we can then do something with and advise the city on and maybe take action in that way. So yeah, I think that's a great example. Okay, great. All right, folks, that was the add-on, the bonus round of our new business. We successfully completed it, which means we are now rolling into the safety of the reporting section. And as Don and Dave, you heard, we love hearing your reports. We like to hear what you learned and what happened and, what the EC can engage, support, or learn from. So Dave, do you want to give us any updates from meetings you've attended this month?
Yeah, and I would propose that we change the order so that I do all of mine and then Don does
tree commission,
Yes, so,
friends, like.
yeah, okay, tree commission met on Monday. We had a bunch of engineers there from the engineering department, I guess. And we looked at 3 different plans. The first one dealt with the Hawthorne Weatherstone neighborhood, and I'm not sure quite where that is, but this had to do with a short trail that goes from Third Street to Hillside. And we'll have some traffic calming involved. The tree plots will get wider because of that, and so they talked about what trees they would like to plant there. There's a 100-foot short trail from Hawthorne to Weatherstone. I don't know if those are streets or neighborhoods or what, but anyway. The second thing that we looked at was about along Liberty Street, which you probably know is out west, south of Lowe's and down in that area. Goes from 3rd Street down to 2nd Street. And they're planning to build a sidewalk there that doesn't exist now. They'll put in 6 new trees, and they'll have a 10-foot tree lawn, which is the width between the road and the sidewalk where they can plant trees. The third thing was about Morris Pike, Southeast Park, which I don't really know well because we live near there, and he works there all the time. They're going to be putting in a trail improvement along the road between the stream and over towards the tennis courts. And they're going to move the sidewalk further from the road to make it safer and put in trees in there. They talked about 6 big trees that are already there. The tree commission folks thought ought not to be moved. And yeah, so this one, it goes from the parking area at this end of the stream over to the tennis courts. So that was what the engineers talked about.
Hey Dave, real quick, that second location you're talking about where they're gonna have the tree lawn, what was the location for that?
Liberty Drive, on the west end of town.
Okay, thank you.
The next thing was the urban foresters report. He happily noted that he had just won a big grant of $100,000, which usually you get money to plant trees, but this was an odd one. Came out of one out of, I don't know, 500 more people that have reached it and applied for it, and it's not common to get it. But anyway, this one is being used to go to pruning trees rather than planting them, so it's unusual in that respect.
To do what tree? The brand is for what?
Pruning.
Pruning.
Yeah, pruning rather than planting, yes. And the next thing, he found a cultivar of Kentucky coffee tree that they're calling decaf. That has a better branching habit. It's still a native, but it's has a better branching habit than the common ones. And they kicked off downtown tree planting. There'll be 90 trees planted downtown by the end of October. They'll be purchasing trees for several places, and September 30th, the orchard will get done. Then they're giving a talk at the orchard. And let's see, I think there's maybe some more things on the list. Yeah, October 20th, urban forestry info booth will be every 4th Saturday at the Bloomington Farmers Market. And Haskell Smith, who's the urban forester, will be there. And possibly members of the tree commission as well. And November 14th and the 15th, there's the Indiana Community Tree Steward Training will take place in Bloomington. I could give you the registration link if you're interested in that. Are you doing it?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought somebody's doing it. And then the last thing we talked about was not the last thing, the last old business was to talk about finishing up a year-long process of revising the tree care manual. This is a picture of Haskell Smith back when he was not the urban forester, but a more junior person. But anyway, when the new ones of these come out, I'll ask you all if you're interested in having a copy, or maybe I'll ask you if you don't, and just assume that everybody was. Let's see, some new business. Yeah, I guess the case Stewart, well, this is maybe a different thing. We've already talked about the tree steward training. So that was basically it. When it came to reports from me, I had already reported our last meeting to them, because they put off their meeting an extra week because of conflict with something. And our agenda hadn't come up yet, so I wasn't able to report anything. And Mia Williams, who's the university's representative there, wasn't present. But the one thing that got mentioned about the university was they propped up the big oak tree on the north side of the Duke Union. That tree for ever since I came to Bloomington. And there used to be another one on the other side of 7th Street, just straight across the road from that one. And then they put in a big parking lot and managed to kill it all. So, yeah. So that big tree is a wonderful piece of forestry on the university property. ERAC didn't meet because they were going to meet at Winslow Woods, and then there was a very stormy afternoon, and so they just canceled that meeting. So now they're meeting every 4th month rather than every 2nd month, and I'll report to you the next time we do something. I've talked about Friends of Lake Monroe. And we'll let you know if they do things in the future that I know anything about. And I guess that's about it. Thank you.
All right, okay, well, we've got those, and then I'm gonna turn it over to Don then for updates on the meetings you've been able to attend.
I'm a little slow in getting out the MCIRS minutes from the meeting this month. I will apologize for that. I'll send it out probably either this evening or tomorrow morning. The plant sale went well, and Linda was there, and I think that hopefully we will get some more resources to help with people that remove invasive plants, and so particularly since the need basis is one of the criteria that MCIRS has for helping people. So I'll send that out. But as far as the bee cost goes, probably the most informative part for me was again Matt Flaherty's reviewed the project 46 with jointly operated between Bloomington and Columbus. And it seemed like there might be some, there will be funding. This is sort of similar to what the program Chicago and Cincinnati are doing in their region. And, you know, it does seem in this sort of still in developmental stage, but there does seem to be potential for some funding and support. And of course, one of the things that crossed my mind listening to it is, can we somehow attach our biodiversity wildlife corridors into this? They're talking about the sort of the green belt between Bloomington and Columbus. Well, we have a long-term project under the shelf, which may benefit from that, and also Canopy Bloomington can benefit. So that was informative. He, of course, brought up the pending discussion about the commissions. So I think that that's something that we definitely have to do something to have our opinions counted. And they then quickly reviewed a lot of their pending just transition. Couple of things working groups did not meet, but the one they got into sort of the new business. One of the discussions that was interesting to me was the issue over food waste and the dilemma that was created when the composting operation went under. And one of their members is an item staff member, and there was quite a bit of discussion about I don't know how to spell it. I think it was a Japanese program called, I think it was called Okusei, which is a variation on the idea of composting material, which seemed very interesting in the sense that it produces a higher material that can be then directly used for other desirable environmental effects. And versus the anyhow, it was a pretty good conversation. And again, it's a big issue, and I guess one of the groups that they are looking at is with Captain and some of the other large potential places where you can get volume out of food waste, like IU, and there are various other programs. So that was pretty interesting. And of course, most of the meeting actually was spent with Todd. And again, the one key component of that was that did not see much the connections that they could have made, and only one question was asked of Todd that really got into environmental, and that was kind of a question about groundwater, but it didn't seem like there was other topics that were ignored that could have been asked. Us. Todd, of course, talked quite a bit about karst and the karst nature of things. And one of the questions I would have asked Todd would have been about what problems come with sinkholes and what people put into sinkholes or build upon sinkholes. When they tore down the old Red Cross building because it was sitting on top of a sinkhole and the structure was failing. You know, if you're talking about sustainability, there are new cars features that are forming, etc. So I definitely saw the difference between, say, questions that we might have asked of Todd that get into more environmental and sustainable questions. You can't separate the two.
Yeah, and I think that's a good acknowledgement, just kind of as we think about, you know, especially because we're so close with Pecos, but also know that they've got a lot that they're focusing on that's quite a bit different than what we focus on. Anything else were those the two for you? We've got it. All right, thank you. Linda, was there anything that you wanted to share? I had a note that you might be sharing something from the ECPC after the last plan commission meeting, but I don't know if there's anything that came from it.
No, it was after the last plan commission. The last plan commission meeting was just discussing what they wanted to do and what we wanted them to do. And so we're expecting a revision to their plans before the next meeting. I mean, they're still in negotiations about streets and, you know, connectivity and utilities and umbrella topics like that. So they've said verbally they're going to change some of their plans for what we have told them verbally we want to see, but we'll have to see that when we see it in writing.
All right. Okay, thank you for that update on that. I mean, it was something that's kind of percolating. Okay, great. Well, folks, here we are at bullet point number 8, which is commissioner announcements. This is your chance to share anything interesting that's going on, personally, professionally, something that may pertain to this larger group or something you want to share. So, Dave, what you got?
I have an observation and a hypothesis, and I would like you to think about it over the next month and see if you make the same observations and agree with my hypothesis. The observation is about 2 to 3 years ago, I noticed that new models of cars and trucks seem to be developing big mouths, big grills on the front, and sometimes they even had teeth-like things that were decorations. I thought it just looked like mouths. And I thought that the different brands of cars and so on, different models were just copying a style from one another. And then 2 months ago, my heat transfer experience came into my head and I came up with a hypothesis. That is, the grill on a car allows air to go in and it goes over the radiator of the car and it cools off the engine. Well, as that happens, as a fluid flows over a surface and takes away heat, that's called convection. And convection is basically proportional to the temperature difference between the air and the surface that it's going on. Well, as the air gets hotter and hotter, which is happening, you all know, then you need a bigger hole in the front of the car to let more air go by to cool off the engine. So I think it makes sense that cars are getting bigger and bigger mouths. And just have a look.
You can research that.
Yeah, well,
Every year from now, I'll have to update on like, how big that is.
try to compare newer model cars with older model cars and see if they don't have bigger grills, because I think they do. And this is especially true, I think, of trucks.
So I never thought on that. With the transition to electric cars, will we have residual mouths on electric cars?
The Tesla has nothing at all.
Yeah.
It just has a pinched front with no grill at all. So,
Interesting. All right, good food for thought.
Other announcements from Michigan?
Also on the lighter side, one of the magazines that I take, had an issue on, all of the names of plants and animals that are being changed because they're politically incorrect. You know, some of them were named after racists and so on. And I won't go into the whole list, but one of them that I thought you should be aware of is that Asian carp, which come from Asia, are no longer called Asian carp. They're called invasive carp. Anybody?
Yeah.
Where they're being called kopi in an attempt to make them more marketable as a.
Yeah, gypsy moth is also changed too. I won't go into this.
Spongy moth, yeah.
What's that?
Spongy moth is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, rebranding. I'm trying to remember the fish species that used to be considered a rough fish that the food industry changed its name to make it sound better.
And they do that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Easy fish. Yeah. All right.
I'll quickly share that the whole weekend is insect weekend, so in addition to Bug Fest on Saturday, I might have said this tomorrow earlier, it's not, it's Saturday. Friday evening from 6:30 to 7:30, there's a nature sounds event at Woodlawn Pavilion at Bryan Park, which they will have acoustic string instruments is literally what it says, so very open. And then a naturalist talking about katydids. Should be a fun evening.
Did you?
You're coming to Bug Fest on Saturday. I don't know the table setup, but on your way to or from our environmental commission table, stop past the item table. I will have dead bugs, live bugs, and free posters. So there are about 30 posters.
I went to, a climate action and resilience committee meeting. It's a committee of the city council. And they haven't met for a long time, but they were meeting, and so I went to see what they were gonna be talking about. And the whole meeting was dedicated to, getting the ball rolling next year on, prohibiting, gas-powered, leaf blowers and small appliances.
Please.
So, you know, they're gonna, you know, talk more about this at their next meeting. But, you know, should it be public and commercial both, or, you know, should it be every day or just, certain days? And, anyway, they're getting the ball rolling on thinking about that again. Yes.
As for, leaf blowers, I've, been wondering, I want to take the top, what's called a super off my beehive. And to do that, you need to get the bees out of it so that you can, if it has honey in it, mine turned out not to. So you can take it and put it in a centrifugal force thing and get the honey out of it. But anyway, I was watching online new ways of getting bees out of supers. There are two older ways, one of which is to put a felt pad that has a bee repellent in it, and it just drives the bees down into the main hive and gets them out of the super. And another way has a kind of a fancy maze in it, and you put that in and you leave it for a day or two, and the bees go down into the main hive, and then they can't get back out through the maze. They're not that smart or something. But the third way, which had never occurred to me, is to use a leaf blower. And you just blow them out. And bees are good at taking wind, and they're out there all the time in the wind. And so it's not a problem for them. But you wouldn't want to use a leaf blower that's gasoline powered, because it would have fumes that would been all sorts of, bad. So it turns out I have a battery powered leaf blower, and I actually used this method and it worked pretty well. It's kind of strange. You sit there and you look at the frames and the beads in between, and you just blow and blow and blow, and they finally go away.
I have a battery powered little vacuum sweeper, and it doesn't work very well because it doesn't have very much power. But I got this infestation of those moths that come in the boxes in the grocery store and stuff. And so when I try to kill them, they just rub a black spot on the wall or the ceiling. So I started vacuuming them up. And it works perfect. I just go on and turn it on and suck those little suckers out.
I've seen recently the tip that that's also the best solution for squash bugs.
Oh,
Gardeners.
That would have changed my life.
Yes, yeah.
A Dyson,
Yeah, they'll vacuum. Ceiling now.
Next year.
All right, anything else before we wrap up for the night?
oh,
All right. Anything you move to the night again?
Move to adjourn.
All right.